what are the spots? What are the things that like connect you to that spiritual place? Like, what are the things that are like, I have to write a song about this right now? Like, what pulls you? Are there like movements? Are there like moments? Are there people,
Bowel
relationships? Bowel movement?
No.
Owl
Sorry,
movements?
movement.
Migration?
Owl movements.
Ooh. What moves me?
I'll give you like an example. For me, it's just like stupid little things where it's like wrong words are said, or like, for example, this is pretty. I'll still say it. I had a good chunk of time. I'm not gonna say who, with alcoholic, like a very destructive alcoholic in my life, and it really, really affected me, and it affected everybody around him. And so ever since, I've been like really moved by alcoholism, especially as like the effects that it has, and like how tricky of a thing it is, because like on the one hand, it is a very real like disease. It's something that comes from within, and like people need help to be able to like address that. And on the other hand, it's something that is so intangible, but creates all of these tangible negative effects all around the person. And so it's like this blameless monster that it creates as a disease. And like that kind of a thing like has really moved on the last record that I did with Fine. Like a lot of what we wrote about had some sort of like component in there. There's a song called 23 and oh, thanks, man. American Man, a bunch of them actually, where it's like just trying to come to terms with like, how does this exist? And like, it's more like a question rather than an answer. But is there like something, I don't know.
I like what you said. It's more of a question than an answer. What I found a lot of the times recently going through...
Recently.
Jesus, if I had a fucking penny for... sorry.
I don't have any pennies.
But where was I? I'm lost on this. There we go.
I didn't know. I put that over there. I was like, that'd be a cool problem.
Yeah, that'll
like,
be useful at some point.
That is
here.
really dumb. I should have done that.
Do you want me to go?
No, yeah, hop in. I lost my train of thought.
Playing with Socrates over there?
Yeah, I'm playing with Socrates over here. I think what inspires me is like observing people.
Yeah.
Seeing, if you like just stop and see these like little interactions between people, like, just, and just like watching people's like body language and, how I like my reactions to things, like I'll be like, ooh, there's like something there. So it's really, it's relationships, but not just like, like romantic relationships, but like seeing like, how people, just move about the world is inspiring to me. Like, because there's so many, you walk past so many people and you don't ever know their names and you don't ever, but everyone has their own little story, right? Everyone has their own little, like something that's going on. And if you just like stop and like kind of look at that and you're like, you kind of just get to invent it for yourself. Have you ever done this where you like invent what they're doing or what their story is?
Have you ever noticed that sometimes it's a little piece of yourself?
Yeah.
You like pass it and you're like, yeah, this is what's going on, and you're like, oh my god.
you're like, oh, that's happening. So I think that inspires me. And then like, if I have anything that I have a really strong emotional reaction to, whether that be like happiness, happy or sad, or indifference, anger actually inspires me a lot. I feel very I get very inspired by that.
Yeah. So I mean, kind of something that I'd like to talk about too, is on like the subject of like relationships. I think
Here we go.
Oh god.
not
this
romantic.
Is vodka,
not
right?
Romantic.
Yes, better be vodka.
Where's my bleach?
Treat my guests well. You've already finished yours.
Wow, bleach. That's such a painful death.
So relationships.
I told you we should have been drunk for this.
Next time.
Okay. All right.
MUSIAN.
So relationships. I mean, relationships
I
are
didn't even ask a question.
Relationships? Question mark.
relationships are fucking hard when you're a musician. They make no sense. They don't make any sense to be like you have to like dedicate yourself to this and like trying to make all this work and all the shit that goes with that. And then like involve someone else in your life. But of course we're sensitive beings, so of course we want to share ourselves with someone and have someone we can be vulnerable with. But we also don't want that person to like, you know, be a block to us. It's really difficult to negotiate because also I feel like we don't have the 9 to 5 where you can be like, I'm gonna go to work, and when I'm done with work, then I'm done. You know, you are always looking for inspiration. You are always trying to do something, especially if you're an independent musician. When you're not in the studio, then you're writing, then you're not, and then you're doing social media, and then you're trying to reach out to blogs, and you're
you have to do like 20 different jobs.
You have to do 20 different jobs. So it's like you have to take your work home with you if you're lucky enough to have a home.
Right. Seriously.
Right?
I mean, by the grace of the Woodwards, I do.
Yeah, right. So
Praise be.
it's really hard to negotiate, and I admittedly have been very, very unsuccessful at it. So I'd be curious to see what you guys think of your like take.
It's been a mixed bag for me. I wasn't even planning on going into romantic relationships, but I'm down. Why not, J.VEN? Why not?
I'm sorry.
No, I've had that same situation where it's been like a certain level of resentment for having to travel or having to be focused on other things or having to be like too personal. I don't know. Songwriting has always been kind of a tricky thing because it's like letting somebody read your diary in a lot of senses. But I mean, luckily right now I'm in a great relationship. I was really lucky.
That's lucky
to find her. Yeah, you think that's unlucky?
as a songwriter?
As a songwriter, yeah, I suppose.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean it's been interesting because it's actually
Break
allowed
up
me
with
to
her
focus.
and write an album about it.
I've already done that so many times. I'm actually loving it because it's given me kind of a different perspective on music. Like for a long time, music was my like sadness vehicle. You know, it's like I'm so depressed, so I need to reach out to music. Like like my whole writing on the first record of Fine was like that was it. It was like just I was really messed up, and it took that 2-year journey to get me out on the other side of it. And so now what we're working on now is like it tackles like kind of a different sense of frustration. It's like looking more at like the societal, like kind of like social awareness kind of frustration, less on the sense of like, you know, like the existential, like democracy is a problem, like less of that and more on the like, how does somebody become an extremist? Like how does somebody get pushed that far to become something like that and then try to write a song from their perspective? That's like what we've been like really fascinated about, is like that kind of stuff. But I don't think being in a negative relationship, I don't think I'd be able to swallow that kind of songwriting. It's like right now I'm in kind of like I have stability a little bit for the first time in my life. Knock on wood.
What's that?
You know, I've negotiated my way onto the yacht. It's going well.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay.
Keep circling around the bay. This yacht.
I really don't see a reason for you to continue with this yacht nonsense.
So relationships.
Well, out of curiosity, what question were you going to ask?
I want to hear what Reese is going to say, and then I don't.
Oh God, I mean, I don't know.
You jumped in. You jumped in.
I was not.
You want us to throw it?
You seemed eager.
You
seemed eager.
Ladies.
Just no, I mean, I don't want to divulge too much because I can talk about this at length. But I just, the whole idea of relationships to me right now is just, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like I feel like I had two really, really fucked up relationships when I was in high school. You know, I have mental health issues, and I dated other people with mental health issues. Those two things don't really go together too well usually. And yeah, it was just like, it took me such a long time to kind of process through all of that. And it also just affected every other relationship that I had after that. So it just like I was kept reliving the same shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like pretty much asexual at this point. Like I just don't, I can't be attracted to people because not on that level. Like I don't even want like just pure sex because that just feels too vulnerable. Yeah, and I don't write about relationships anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like the other thing too is like there's a part of me that's just like I don't want to be the person that takes that is reaching out anymore. Like I want the next relationship that I have to be somebody that is already meeting me halfway at the beginning because I'm far too fast at getting to the halfway point.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Oh, that's great. I really appreciate it.
Let's go back to
What
other
question were you gonna ask?
Well, let me actually, I'm going to throw in one thing. The homie Socrates over there, he's got a really interesting take on love itself. And so there's like this idea of like platonic love. But he's in some of the dialogues, there's one called the Phaedrus, where it's like he gets super in depth about like loving a soul and like really coming to know somebody like purely on a like soul to soul basis. In Greek, it's not really like soul, like Christian soul. It's more like mind, soul, personality kind of thing. And so I really, that's been like one of the first things that I've really resonated with. And I want to write love songs about like that because I feel like I've tried to write so many love songs that are like very shallow or like 2 layers below shallow. But I would love to have a love record that wasn't even necessarily sexual in the slightest bit.
Yeah.
It was purely in the like, I honestly love who you are, and not like the cliche, like, you know, like just the way you are kind of way. And not to hate on the song, but like in the like, it doesn't matter man, woman, or child or whatever. It's like your mind, soul, your essence connects with mine, like that kind of a thing. I'd love to go there at some point.
I mean, for what it's worth, sex and love have never really been intertwined in any relationship I've been in. Like, the most passionate relationships I've been in have had nothing to do with sex. The most sexual relationships I've had have had nothing to do with passion. I would choose passion almost any day. And I'm a very sexual person, but I just feel like I can satisfy my own sexual desires better than somebody who doesn't know me. And I haven't had, honestly, and it's kind of, I just haven't had like a sexual experience that has felt extremely like fulfilling. When people talk about sex and getting this fulfilling, maybe I just haven't found myself in that yet, but I don't know. I'm not into sex.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels kind of fucked up. I haven't said that out loud before. I don't know if I'm into that so much.
Yeah.
But like I'm into the idea of it. I don't know.
Love, man.
Yeah. I think that is what it all comes down to. In like hopefully like we were saying, like in more of like that universal sense.
Well, yeah, I think there's a love, like you were saying, it's often kind of boiled down to a romantic. Like that's where I feel like, I don't want to like point fingers, but it's like what we consume as a society is kind of that's what love boils down to. Like, and we see love in like the mother and father and the children. But how often, do we have songs about, love between two friends?
Yeah.
Two girls, especially two males, because with the fragility of masculinity, that's definitely not happened so far, and it takes away so much.
Yeah.
Because there's so romantic love is great. It's great. It's to fall in love with someone and be romantically involved with them. That's wonderful. But the love you have for a friend is also a beautiful thing, and and when you love someone unconditionally, like some marvelous things happen, and that love is just as strong. It's a different kind of love, but it's just as strong. And I think that in music, that's so cool that you're exploring that.
Yeah.
And something that I think is going to resonate with a lot of people, especially, millennials were called the no relationship generation, I guess. That's what what's that one? The Elite Daily tells me.
You know what, dude? that kind of shit is like, there's not much more that pisses me off more than like the concept of saying the selfie generation, the me generation. It's like, no, you don't get to fucking define what our generation is, and it's like we're still figuring it out. We have to define who we are before we can define who we collectively are, and it's like this sense of like, oh, they have cell phones, so that has crafted their personality in this certain way. No, it's like, I honestly think that what it really is that people are afraid of people that are willing to think in a different way, that are willing to like look at like the family dynamic and say, there are other ways, there are other types of love, there are other types of like ways to like even look at somebody across borders and say, I love them. Why would we go to war? It's like why would we enact some sort of a trade deal or something that would send and force them into like slave labor or child labor or something like that?
And I think importantly too is that Nicki Minaj said that she's the voice of a generation. So
a lot of people say that.
No, I think Nicki said it first.
Oh,
Let's talk about what I was gonna say a long time ago about relationships.
Oh, we're finally getting back.
Yeah, we're looping all the way back around.
What were you actually gonna say?
So I was gonna talk about kind of what I just touched on, actually, about relationships on the super zoomed out scale. So something else that like Socrates talks about is like how in order to know the person, you have to know the society, kind of thing. Whether or not that's true, totally debatable. But just for the purpose of argument, do you guys ever get inspired or have like any like strong feelings about like the society at large and what it says about the individuals? I know, J.VEN, I'm just go for it, man. Let's talk about this. I think this is really important because I think that artists need a voice in this kind of conversation.
Well, if I can be 100% honest, America has never really valued non-white lives, non-white people, particularly black lives. And because of the continued violence against black people and systemic racism is so insidious that often what is not understood is that it has sedimented into the very structure of this country. It informs everything. It is at every level that you can imagine that it could be. So if we're looking at a, zoomed out, it's disheartening. It's angering. James Baldwin said to be black and to be aware is to be in a constant state of rage. And I am in a constant state of rage because I see it every day and it happens. And often when you try to address it or teach someone about it, tell them about it, they use this, I like to call it a double-edged sword. And it's this argument that if you say something about it, you're too sensitive. If you don't say something about it, then you're complacent to it. Then there's nothing going on. But if you say something about it, you're too sensitive. And often what it creates is, and this is something that I think my generation of, and not just Black Americans, but I speak specifically for my experience as a Black man in this country, is that we were kind of fed this by the previous generation that you had to, I call it the exceptionalism rule. And what the exceptionalism is that if I can be twice as good, work twice as hard, be that more diligent, always be on top of it, never make a mistake, then you can essentially rise above your Blackness. In the sense of, these people are getting discriminated against because they're not doing as well as me. And if I want to not be discriminated against, then I need to make sure I'm twice as good. And so then you have situations where people in what my generation is discovering, and particularly me, is when Trayvon Martin was killed, I was like, so many things went through my mind. And one thing that I had is, I was like, my degree is not going to save me. Because you see, I had been operating off of the idea that if I made myself better, if I just worked so hard, if I got in all these AP classes, make sure I go to college, if I do boom, 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 all of these things, then I won't ever have to deal with racism. Because it's not going to touch me, because racism is down here. But it doesn't. And that's a very sad truth. And it was devastating. And to know that someone will kill you and get away with it, most likely, just because of your skin color is I mean, it's a different kind of, like, a fear and anger that you live with. And the worst part is that you can't express it in most circles, because you have to, non-white people have to find spaces in where they can express their pain and their frustration, because if you express it in white circles, here comes a double-edged sword. And you even have it, I mean, you can be the president of the United States and you still have this. You see it all the time. And it said, if Obama says that there's still racism, they're like, "How there can't be racism? You're the president." which is to me it's like trying to argue, up is down and down is up. It's like, just because I've jumped through all these hurdles and I made it past, and I was lucky enough to make it through, does not mean that those hurdles don't exist. But under most logic, that's how it goes. It's like, oh, well, you made it. So it can't be that good. Or you're complaining. Stop complaining. And often it's I find this even within my own family, unfortunately, even my foster family, is that I had an aunt recently. I made a status about Alton Sterling and Philando Castile, and she said, and I said that in my post, I said that to be Black in America is to live in a constant state of compliance. And the reason I say that is because your skin is defiance. So you are constantly trying to comply so that you can keep your life, keep your job, keep your home. The list goes on. And so we're always trying to comply to just keep our bodies safe. And we don ourselves with Ivy League degrees and with Armani suits and with BMWs and the nice house and the nice car and all that we live in the gated communities, yet even still, it's our skin that is the act of defiance. And she said to me, she said, who's the one that gave you the opportunity to not live that life? Because in her eyes, I had made it, so those things didn't exist. And that kind of erasure is violence. You know, and it's racism. And people often think that racism is just physical violence, but racism is so much more insidious, and it's terrifying what this country was built on and the structures that are in place. It is, I recommend Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow, Racism Without Racists. I mean, these things that are happening and are being, it just doesn't have words. It's despicable, obviously, but it just and so to carry that, you carry that everywhere you go. That's on you. And you know, that's why it's you live in a constant state of rage. How could you not? You're being discriminated against at every turn, even when you don't even know it. I mean, they just did a study where they sent out, I think, resumes, and they found that if they had ethnic sounding names, they came back. I mean, it's 2016, you know, and racism is veiled in many things. And that's why it's hard to explain and get that out, because people veil it in code words. You can't say the N-word anymore, so you say predator, or you say thugs, or you say people are radical terrorists. You know, that racism is insidious. Yeah. It finds code words. It's like Martin Luther King said, the white man was fed the bird of Jim Crow. Because even if you are poor and white, you are white, so you are still better than the poor black man. So no matter what your economic status, you are better just in being white. You know, and that sentiment exists. It keeps going. And I think that's what is so frustrating about this, is that things get better, but as a black man, I feel very like my ancestors bled and died so that I could be here. But people are bleeding and dying still to this day, and it looks different. But make no mistake, these police shootings are modern day lynchings. So for me, it is just a constant state of rage to be like, when is this going to end? And I don't want to change. I want it to stop. I don't want it to change its face. Yeah. I want it to gone. So you know, it's, yeah, I don't know what else to say to that.
Thank you, J.VEN. Thank you. That was really powerful. It makes me think. I was just watching the vice presidential debate, and my parents totally didn't catch Mike Pence talking about illegal aliens. It's like those little tiny words.
Yes. And
Trump with inner city.
Yeah. Triggers. They call them trigger words.
Yeah.
And they know, you know what it means.
Yeah.
Without saying it.
Mm-hmm. One thing about what you were saying that I find upsetting is you're talking about how these conversations can only happen in certain communities, and how you feel like you can't have this kind of conversation a lot of the times in a group of white people, And I feel like I grew up without having a lot of these conversations. Like they didn't happen till I was really in school. And I don't think that my parents like intended to ignore racism. I think they thought that if they didn't teach about racism, that it just wouldn't exist. Mm-hmm. But then like I came into school like a believing that affirmative action was fucked up. Like I didn't understand, why does there need to be this thing? I was like, well, isn't it just reverse racism? And then I like sat in a philosophy class where there was an argument about it, and then like pretty soon realized it's like, oh, like there's a lot of history here that does need to be erased. And like you were saying, there's all this systematic kind of things. And I mean, I think it's, you know, as a white man, I feel like I'm responsible for this problem. You know, like I need to be doing things and having these conversations. And I feel the same thing of like, how do I like go into a conversation with people and start bringing up these issues that are really important? You know, where do these conversations begin and where do they lead, especially as an artist and using our collective gifts? Like where, because I know you write about this in your music, and I haven't felt enough like I'm a part of the whole thing to write about it. Like I don't want to come at it from the perspective of, oh, Rees just wants to be another voice in the crowd. You know, I don't want to contribute something to the conversation. I don't want to just be yelling. But like I feel like there's also something that needs to be said. And so as an artist, you know, like, I mean, I think that's kind of why we're bringing this up in this particular thing. It's like, how do we start those conversations?
Well, I just want to point out, ironically, affirmative action benefits white women the most.
Really?
Yeah, statistically, it benefits white women the most. But you know, the thing to understand about why non-white people often feel they can't have those conversations is because for us, there's a lot on the line. Because most often a white person is in power, and not, it doesn't always happen, but generally speaking, white people in power do not take kindly to being told or talking about these issues. So when we hold our tongues, it's not always like because we don't want to feel uncomfortable. It's because our jobs are on the line, or like it's our reputations. They're like economic and social repercussions for being, you know, for bringing up these issues. And so I always charge, you know, my white friends to, you know, if you feel like you need to do something and you want to say something, then I give it to you to start the conversation. Because that means a lot to have someone that doesn't look like you advocating for you.
Right. But where do I get the license to comment? I mean, I just made an ignorant comment, obviously, you know, talking about affirmative action, where you're saying it doesn't even really benefit people of color. And, you know, I mean, that if I'm going to use my voice to say something, I want it to be as effective as it can be. I haven't posted anything political on Facebook this election cycle yet because I don't want to waste that, you know. I don't want to inundate people with it. I want to use that moment. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean?
I understand what you're saying. I think reading, like, no one gets a license. Like, it's not like a license like, here, you get to talk about social issues, you know what I mean? You just read, and you have to be open and ready to be wrong, and not let that, shut down the conversation.
Yeah.
But to be like, become open-hearted to the conversation and be like, this is what I think, this is what I know.
Right.
But I know something's not, I know this isn't right. I don't know what's right about this, but this isn't right. Something about this isn't right. And I don't think if someone approached me like that, and one thing that I do want to point out is like, please don't like look to your black friends to explain everything to you. You know what I mean? Not that you would do that, but I get that sometimes, and that shit is exhausting. You just, read, look at articles, like it's all out there for you. And then, if there's a conversation you feel like needs to be had, you can just be like, hey, I feel like this isn't right. What are we doing here? But as far as like your voice, like I think that's right there. When you're saying you're like, you don't know what to say, that is when you should. Because when I wrote that song, that is literally, I was like, I do not know what to say about this.
That song's Holding On. We'll post that in the description.
And I just was like, I gotta say something, and I think that's what's important,
right?
And being another, and I don't think you should fear being another voice in the crowd, because we do, we need.
I don't think I phrased that the way.
Okay.
But it's more like you were saying. It's about having a conversation, right? It's about being open-hearted and being willing to be wrong. And I guess where I struggle is generally my philosophy as a songwriter. So I've written some songs that I regret writing. And I feel like the issue that we're talking about is important enough that I don't want to take a stance that I'm going to regret, Like, if I put it this way, I've written songs about like relationships that I've had where I put a lot out there and I was processing it in an emotional way where I don't think that what I committed to this recording or, just even the writing of the song reflected where I am now on it. I guess what I'm hearing is like, it's better to just have the conversation than to be quiet. But
yeah, it's always better to have the conversation in a respectful way than to be quiet, and I think that if you, like, going back to you saying like you're writing a song you regret, there's one thing that I know, like I don't know you that well, but I know that you're a caring and loving person, and I don't think you will ever regret writing a song saying that, we need to love each other. We need to fix this. We've got to do something about this. It's not saying you don't have, as artists, we're not tasked with having the answers, remember. We're not, that's not our job. Where our job is to bring, make the intangible tangible, and that's the struggle in the human spirit and the pain and the hurt, and so I don't think you don't have to have the answer to this,
right?
But it's very valid to make a song like, I don't know what to do about this, but I know there's a problem,
right?
And I know this isn't right, and and to me I'm thinking of that now, that's a timeless song. That's because that is gonna, that'd be something that the people look back on and be, like, and it's interesting because these songs, like music, plays such a part in social movements, because it gives people something to latch onto when you can't, like "We Gonna Be All Right" by Kendrick Lamar, like maybe you can't, you don't want to listen to Obama give a speech about how everyone, like, please stay peaceful and blah 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 blah, but if I can just I can put that song on and I'm like, that, because that gives me a feeling of like great feeling of self, and like and politicians, they don't they don't do that. Like, but that's not that's not their job. What I'm saying, like, I get, you know what I'm saying?
Politicians only do what they're made to do.
Yeah.
That's all. They have to be forced to do that's my personal belief, is that politicians, the only way that change actually happens is when everyone is pressing on the politician's back. They don't move an inch until the whole world's behind them. And this is something that, going back to what I was talking about, like about our generation being typed or whatever, the one thing that I think is applicable and needs to change is apathy. So I do think that our generation is apathetic, but pretends not to be.
Don't you think that's every generation, though?
Maybe, but
I look at the hippies, and I think it's the same thing.
Or do you think it's the
I don't know if
not
I can say this.
apathetic, but it's like cool to be apathetic?
Yeah. Well, it's like
And
beyond.
cut off.
It's like we don't take the next step. Like yeah, it'd be good to post on social media, and I do think that this conversation, I'm really excited for this, because I'm excited for people to hear this conversation, because I think this is going to touch a lot of people. I think that that beautiful discourse was very powerful, and I'm so happy to have been a part of that. So thank you both for sharing that much of your soul. That was absolutely incredible. And I think that these kind of conversations and these kind of movements as artists are going to be what's going to push us from that next step, from doing a Facebook post to having a conversation in real life, to pressuring our congressmen and women and our senators, like, to actually do something about it, pressuring our communities. Because the thing with police force is that this is an entirely decentralized network. When you have somebody like Trump saying, like, I'm going to be the law and order candidate, that's a Gestapo, that's a SS kind of move. That's because law enforcement is decentralized. But that makes the problem even more difficult for everybody, because that has to be a movement that spreads to every corner of the United States. And the only way that happens is if we, as artists, I think that music's the only thing that can get there. I think that music is the only thing that can move, because, like, you don't have to be there to play for someone. Like, you make the song and it goes out, and a million people can hear it. But it's like with a movie, that's done in a month. Like with a play, like that's it. Like a lot of media, like a painting, that's like in a museum, and then you go see it, and you leave, maybe take a postcard. But like a piece of music, that has got such legs. And I think if we as artists stop being apathetic, and I'm not saying that you are. I'm saying this to myself as well.
I'm willing to say I have been very hesitant to tackle not just this issue, but really any political, social issues in my music. And it's something that I grapple with, because I don't like political, social music for the most part. Yeah. But I think that these things need to be said. But I don't mind being called apathetic.
No, but I think that, and I think that this brings up an interesting point, because in the last episode of MUSIAN, I was talking with Madison Shekel, and she was talking about how she hates Bob Dylan and Neil Young and that whole kind of like political, social preaching kind of thing, because she feels like it's like privileged white straight men telling everybody how hard their life was. Or
I agree with that. Personally, I think that's one of the things that's kept me from writing. It's because I don't want to just be that perspective.
Absolutely, but I think the beauty of where we're at now is if we are spreading that message of love, like that message of, like, you know what, when you get cut, I get cut too. Like that message of, like, we are all one here, that there is a unity of, like, being an American, and that then we can refound what America is, because I think that there is beauty within the lines, like in between the lines, where you say, like, okay, Thomas Jefferson, he's a slave owner, like, they're deplorable things that he has done. But within the philosophy, with better people, I think that the philosophy can be turned and say that this really is a place of equity, where it's no matter who you are, everyone is treated the same under the law. If you're poor, you get a great attorney. If you're rich, you go to jail. If you did the crime, you go to jail. It's like the CEO of Wells Fargo. He just resigned. There's no way his ass is ever going to jail. And he should. There's so many people that should be in jail, and they're sitting in their bajillion-dollar mansions. And that's the America that we've created. And I think that this is just yet another sign that needs to be changed. And I think it can be changed peacefully. I think it can be changed intellectually. And I think it can be changed with love. But I think it starts with the artists. I really, really do.
My acting teacher used to tell us that our first job is to entertain, and a second is to teach. And really great art happens when the audience is taught without even knowing they were being taught. So I definitely think that applies to music as well, where you can say something and teach something to someone or bring something to their attention without them knowing that you're you're like, hey, I'm gonna teach you something right now. And that you find entrances in that where what is the problem with police killings? It is because police are targeting black men because they are labeling them as threatening, intimidating. So there's a stereotype that's being placed. Now, you might not know what it means to be a black person, but I think almost everyone could agree that they've been stereotyped. And so that's not a comparison, but it's a way for you to get reference. And I think that you can use that, maybe your song is called Stereotype. I don't know, but everyone can identify with that. And I think that's a way that we can use music to push forward change,
Let's talk to young people, like young people. Like say like somebody's like a 17-year-old in high school right now, and they're looking at us as pop music grads and a senior in the pop program. Like what would you say about just the craft of becoming an artist? And then secondary, like what's your experience like in the pop program, and how do you think that that's given you guys tools to be able to like become a greater artist and be able to teach without necessarily showing it? Maybe we could just start simple and be like, did you enjoy the pop program? Go for it.
I was just gonna say, I feel like I'm just now realizing how much time I wasted in the pop program, just being a pothead for the majority of those 4 years. Like there's a lot of stuff that's just now starting to stick that was kind of in the back of the head, but I mean, I don't know. I wonder how long that program will continue to exist the way it does. It seems like it changes so much every year that goes by. I don't know. I don't even know if like advice that.
What are each of our classes? I was class of 2013.
2017. I'll be.
2015.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Pretty good spread,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I really have like a takeaway.
Speaking to developing as an artist, I mean, you are enough. That is something that I learned the hard way, that I am enough, and that, you have to put in the hard work, of course, but you also have to be a person, and you also have to gift yourself the freedom of, being you, and whatever that means. And I think we try to, especially when you're coming into a program like the pop program, it's very intimidating because you have all these like very talented people, and some people, oh my God, they come in and they know exactly what they're going to do. They just keep doing it all for you. They started with it and they going to finish with it. And so you feel like, oh my God, I'm going to, like, I don't know, like, but it's just, you just have to allow yourself you have to allow yourself to be enough, because you're all that you've got, really, so my development as an artist has just changed in like developing a very strong sense of self, but then also being comfortable with that sense of self. And that, I think that plays a lot into your growth. Because the hard work is I think the easy part, the putting in the work, like going into the practice room, doing all that, doing your assignments. But the harder stuff is the like soul stuff, because that's where your creativity comes from, and that's where all those wonderful songs hopefully will like grow from. So you have to really be working on you.
Yeah.
Really, like treat that like that's the hard stuff, is being like, what do I want? What do I value? What is a fulfilling life to me?
Yeah.
What are my goals? Things like that. That's the really hard stuff. Now the pop program, this program is crazy. I mean, it is. You're right. It changes. It changes a lot, but I don't know if it's just because I'm a starry-eyed senior, but I just feel like I've grown so much as a person through this program and so much as an artist. Well, and I think those two are together. Like, I think you grow as a person, you grow as an artist. But how it prepared me is that, you have your music theory classes and all that, but it prepares you in how to deal with people. Sometimes difficult people, and like pop band rehearsals, people skills are so important. It prepares you to plan, and get a project going, execute it, reevaluate how that goes. That's so very important. And I think now, especially these past 2 years, it gives you a realistic view of what you're going to be facing. That's and good. How to tackle that.
Cool.
Because I think a lot of times music programs, and I can say that, when I went to Berkeley and when I went to NYU, like, it was not, they kind of do this thing where, like, if you're excellent, very good, like undeniably great at your craft, it's going to come. And what I love about Chris is that Chris Sampson is that he's like, be excellent, be undeniably great, but that's a non-starter. Mm-hmm. The next part you need to be worrying about how not worrying, but planning for how are you going to strategize. Mm-hmm. You can't just, money is a factor, mm-hmm. like it or not. And a lot of people are like, they crinkle their nose when people are like, oh, you need a lot of money to make it in this business. I say, yes, know that you need a lot of money. That would make it very much easier if you do have $1 million to throw into your career. Yeah. But if you know mm-hmm. that's a factor, then that's power, because then you can strategize. How am I getting around that? Yeah. How do I get around not having that great connection that would instantly get me in a meeting with a label? How am I getting around not having that the money to hire these musicians and get into a studio? That's power. Yeah. The worst thing is to tell someone like, oh yeah, as long as you're great, you'll be fine. Yeah. And then them be out and be like, wait, what happened? Why aren't these things happening? Mm-hmm. So that's a really big discovery that I think that for me, that's the biggest takeaway from the pop program is a Chris just being like straight up with mm-hmm. me, because then like, you can figure it out from there. Yeah. You can diversify your skills. You can go into other fields. Mm-hmm. You can, because then so then you can start preparing like, okay, so maybe I can like start working on my production skills, and I can do that, and then I can do like background vocals. You can do that. Yes. But if you just assume like, I'll just be great, so that's what I would say
like
about
that a lot. In the last episode, we were having a similar discussion, and I don't want to misquote or anything like that, but we were talking about positive versus like negative impressions of the program, because the reviews were slightly mixed. The class below mine, so in between mine and Rees's.
Who was on your last panel?
Madison Shekel and Eric Radloff. Okay. The class below mine had like a lot of conflict within it. It was not nearly the like familial thing that my year had. and I was trying to like counter it and talk about like why I thought the program was really great for me, and the thing that I was reaching for was talking about how I was surrounded by people that were better than me, like definitely better than me, and like for the first time in my life I was confronted with like, you're not as good as you think, and I at the time that was hard, but like I love that, and I try to keep myself in that situation, which is why I'm hanging out with you guys. Like, I'm serious. No, I'm serious.
Yeah,
I'm
if you're
serious.
the smartest person in the room, leave.
No, I truly like. I want to be able to be around people that I truly feel are like dynamic artists, because that's the only way I think that I could ever possibly become one. And in addition to that, what you were touching on is I think that there was a certain philosophy that came along with the program that was rooted in Chris Sampson and Patrice Rushen. It was very matter of fact. It was like almost just like you were saying, is like, here are the options on the table. You're going to have to choose one of them and prepare yourself until you're able to hit that. It's like the leveling factor that I didn't have and I still struggle with. And I'll go and like, even when I was like going, like Fine just got management. And so but this shows how like, how much of a father complex I have with Chris Sampson. I brought the manager in to meet Chris, to get Chris's take. And I'm so damn glad I did, because like that moment where I was able to see them interact and like be like, oh, you know this guy? Yeah, I know this guy, whatever. And then at the end, Chris being like, yeah, I like this dude. He's a good choice. Like that just alone was like leveling factor. It's like normally like I'd get anxious about it. I'd think about every like possibility. He's going to screw me. He's going to do these. Like, it's okay. Papa Chris.
Papa Chris.
And like I think musicians kind of need that. And like I think that that's part of the beauty of like the program that we had and you still have is like, it is a different sort of one-on-one that I don't know how many other music schools have.
Ooh, yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, no. I mean, at Berkeley, there's not that.
Yeah.
There's like it's like a, kind of like, oh, you need to take these classes, you need to do this, and good luck, see you in 4 years. There's not that like hands-on experience that's in the pop program.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's dope. Congratulations,
Thanks,
by
man.
the way.
Thanks.
And like I think it's just awesome, that you guys come to this point, because I mean, it's not been easy, right? Yeah. It's not been it wasn't like you guys got handed a record contract right out of school, and you guys are fucking great.
Thanks, man.
But that's just, I think that's a testament to what expectations are laid out, and that's power. Because you guys did the work, and you strategized. I mean, that's a strategy.
It was.
I mean, it's fucking brilliant.
Thanks, man.
And that's what I love about the program, is that it teaches you got to do this. You got to be innovative. Being great is a non-starter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, guys, that was immensely pleasurable.
Except for the yacht. I'll never live it down.
You're going to get a yacht someday.
I will.
You will.
Yeah,
You'll
that's
get a
why
yacht
I
someday.
said it. I want a yacht.
No. I want to be there with the bottle of champagne.
You'll be like, I want to rent this yacht.
Yes. It's like, you can have full ownership in 2 years.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys. Do you have anything else you want to chip in at the end? Or closing things to leave our potential audience that doesn't quite exist yet?
You are enough.
Oh, that's sweet. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. This is episode 2 of MUSIAN. Thank you so much to J.VEN and Rees for joining me, and we'll see you next time.
My brother taught me that with help you can't accomplish anything, and then he taught me all the names of all the days.